Am I an idiot for telling my daughter she cannot marry a bigot? Some background. My wife and I worked and lived in a somewhat larger city where my daughter was born. My wife got a job opportunity in one of her employer's field offices and it was too good to pass up. We moved to the boonies when my daughter, Amy, was a preteen and we have been here ever since. The people are nice but we were quickly labeled as city folk and so we never really integrated very well. Amy came back the summer between her freshman and sophomore year. She got a summer job which is where she met her fiancé, Dan. We have had him over to the house countless times since then and he is polite, respectful, and he seems to truly love my daughter. He is a local and his family have been locals for generations. We rarely met up with his parents, but they also seemed nice when we did. They dated long distance all through her college years. This past summer they got engaged. His parents decided to throw an engagement last weekend at their house. We had never been there and I was excited to see the home where he grew up and meet his extended family. The party was fine. We did our best to fit in but, like I mentioned, we were from the city and they poked fun a little bit. His dad gave a speech and while it wasn't overtly racist, he mentioned how he was happy that his son found a nice white girl and looking forward to white grandbabies. As the night progressed, they started to share a bit of family history so that we would know the proud lineage our family would now be a part of. Without going into too much detail, they are descended from members of a hate group. We decided to be polite and not say anything but we didn't stay much longer. I let this stew for a few days until Amy returned home. She tells me that she was not aware of his family history but it doesn't change her mind. I don't want her marrying into this family and I told her so. She says Dan doesn't wholly believe what his parents do but I'm not convinced. You can't be raised to believe you are of a superior race and not of it become internalized to some degree. She assures me that they have a lifetime for her to point out all the ways his parents are wrong. But I am worried that if they never leave his hometown, there will be too much pushback from his family. I told her that I am going to be firm on this, that I don't want her marrying into that family. She called me an idiot and has been ignoring me ever since. I feel horrible but this isn't what I had hoped for her. So is she right? Am I being an idiot? Update. Not long after I posted, Amy came to me to apologize. I was surprised because based on the responses I was getting, I was preparing to apologize to her. She said she lashed out because she was trying to reconcile her relationship as she knew it with the new information about who he was. I asked her if she really had no idea and she said that, looking back, there were warning signs but nothing that would lead her to believe that he was overtly racist. I guess being long distance and liking him so much allowed her to remain mostly ignorant. She wanted to know what she should do. I told her that I was going to talk to Dan and try to get a beat on who he is apart from his parents. She seemed to think that was a good idea. A lot of people said that I was being unfair labeling him a racist before. But now that we have spoken I can tell you for certain that he is a racist. A lot of you were trying to figure out what Amy meant by him not being wholly racist and I think I can answer that now. He told me that he doesn't harbor any hatred for anyone. But he believes the white race will go extinct eventually and he is proud of who he is and of his race and he doesn't want that to happen. Which I guess also explains his father's comment about white grandbabies. I told him that his heritage is nothing to be proud of and that his beliefs will have no place in our family or in my household. He said that Amy seemed to understand him and that I might not have a choice of whether or not his beliefs will be a part of my family. I said that he was right. If Amy wants to move forward with the wedding then there is nothing I can do to stop her. He sneered and told me that he supposed we had nothing more to discuss and that was the end of it. I told Amy what me and him discussed and she decided to call it all off. She broke up with him and he has not taken too kindly to it. He has been to the house a lot so we decided to get her an apartment back in the city. Her work is going to start phasing back into the office anyway so the timing works out. His parents called us and came to speak with us a few times. At first they were just trying to figure out what was going on but it quickly turned into them berating us. I got some Reddit flack for not standing up to them initially so this time I made sure they knew where I stood. Not an idiot. Well, this is horrifying but also a huge relief. Amy found out now. She sought out counsel from someone she trusted. And Dan showed his ass and made her decision really easy. Good for you for keeping the lines of communication open in your family so that Amy knew she could come to you for support and advice. Not an idiot. If they decide to become more confrontational, I suggest getting a Ring doorbell and camera just in case things escalate. If they are small-minded country folk, they may try to push you around through their connections so better be prepared for more harassment and find a good lawyer that can help you. Did the mom overstep? Let me know in the comments. Now, you won't want to miss this next story. Am I an idiot for not agreeing to a paternity test unless my husband goes to therapy? I, female 28, and my husband, male 32, have a 3-year-old son together. There has never been any doubt that my husband is the father. I've never given him any cause for concern that I cheated on him. He acknowledges all of this. Last week, he came to me and said that for the last few months, he has been plagued, his word, with this anxiety that our son is not his. They don't look identical, granted, but they definitely share similar features and I see my husband whenever I look at my son. I was obviously blindsided by this. I had no idea he was having these thoughts. I asked him to explain why he thought that he wasn't his and he couldn't really provide any answer other than a gut feeling. He asked me if I would be okay if he got a paternity test done so it could ease his mind. I initially said absolutely not. No way in hell. I was very offended. He told me that he could just do it without my permission, and I said if he did that, I would never forgive him. My husband does not have a history of anxiety, but he did lose his job back at the start of the pandemic, so he's been with our son most of the time while I work my full-time job from home. I know this hasn't been easy on him. I'm not a psychiatrist or anything, but maybe he is starting to resent our son or something from just having to be around him constantly. After our heated first conversation, I spoke with some friends about it, and they said that he was probably having psychiatric problems due to the stress of not having a job. I came back to my husband and said that if he went to therapy and maybe started taking some anti-anxiety meds, that I would consider getting the test. He was very upset at this and said that once he got the results of the test back, he wouldn't be anxious anymore, and that I wasn't being fair by making him go through a whole rigmarole. Again, his word, just to get peace of mind, which was a phrase he used a lot during this. He again threatened to just get the test without my permission, and I said this would effectively end our relationship. I think there's something more serious going on here, and I thought that my solution here is as fair as I'm willing to be. My friends are divided. Some think I should just take the test, and others are saying he's being insane and that if I cave to this, there's just going to be something else. I need some neutral perspective here. Am I an idiot? Edit. I haven't read all the comments here because the amount of responses has been overwhelming. However, I want to say that I really do not appreciate strangers attempting to diagnose my husband over the internet. It is disgustingly presumptuous. I'm his wife and I don't feel qualified to do that, which is exactly why I want him to go to a licensed therapist. Another thing I'm seeing pop up is that I'm somehow demanding that he take medication. I said maybe medication, meaning that I only think he should be on medication if a licensed therapist prescribes them to him. I don't want to shove pills down his throat, which seems to be what some people think I want to do. As for the numerous suggestions of marriage counseling as opposed to individual therapy, I think this is a great idea. I didn't initially consider it because I was so focused on it being his problem, but we are ultimately a team, and I'll suggest that to him today. Hopefully, it goes better. Thanks everyone for your input. Update. Thanks to everyone who commented on my original post. Unfortunately, this is not a great update. If you don't want to read it all, the bottom line is we're heading toward divorce. I took some of the commenters' advice to go to couples therapy, which we did that same week as my first post. I had to push him a bit to get him to agree to the therapy, but I told him it was either this or I would never give in to the test. The first Zoom session was a little awkward since neither of us had ever done therapy before. After listening to both of us, she basically said that she thought we should do the test to see if that eases his anxiety, and that if it doesn't, which, at the time, was my concern, that we could go from there. So my husband was thrilled and I agreed, but I wanted to be on Zoom with the therapist when we received the results so we could talk it out with her there, which he was fine with. So we did the test and we did our Zoom session when our results were in. And surprise, surprise, the paternity test says he's 99% likely to be the father. He didn't appear relieved or happy or anything of what I expected. Maybe this was unfair, but I did expect him to cry and maybe apologize to me for his lack of trust. This wasn't just my imagination though, because when the therapist asked him in our first session how he would feel if the test came back saying he was the father, he said he would feel relieved. But he was angry. He kept saying that it was over and that he didn't want to talk about it. He kept repeating it's done over and over when the therapist would try to ask a question about how he was feeling, and he was obviously not listening when I tried to talk about my feelings. And when I told him I wanted to talk about it, he yelled at me, which he never does. What else is there to freaking talk about? I was mortified that he was talking to me this way in front of a therapist, and she said we should schedule a new session once he had time to process. After the session, he wouldn't look at me or speak to me. That he was so upset that he was our wonderful son's father made me absolutely lose my mind. We screamed at each other and it ended with me saying that I can't do this anymore. He's at his brother's apartment now, finally away from our son, which is obviously what he wanted all along. And my mom is now staying at my place to help me out around the house. I texted him this weekend asking if he wanted to do another therapy session, and he asked if I really thought that would help, and I had to admit that I didn't. The speed at which this whole thing happened, just a month ago, I would have said we have a happy marriage, is still completely shocking to me. But I don't see us recovering from this. This felt cathartic to type out though, so thanks I guess. And TA, I'm sorry it turned out like this. I have a feeling he has some deeper issue and he was never going to accept any answer other than he's not the father because he's got it in his head now. I hope he gets the help he needs, and I hope you find peace in your future. Not an idiot. I think he already wanted to end the marriage for whatever reason. And the paternity thing was just a ruse. He probably figured either you'd be so outraged that it could send you two into a downward spiral in which you'd look like the bad guy for refusing to do the test. Or maybe there was some chance he wasn't the father and he could then feel righteous in his reasoning for leaving you. Do you think the husband is crazy? Now, this next story is a head scratcher. Am I an idiot for not waking my partner up and causing him to miss a family trip? My female 26 and my partner, male 28, have 5 daughters, 7, 6, 4, 3 and 5 months. For a long time there's been an issue with him getting up to help with the kids of a morning. He thinks he should be able to sleep in on his days off work, while I think he should get up when the kids and I do, or we should at least be alternating who lies in a bed. We've been seeing a therapist who has mentioned he should be helping more in the mornings. Recently we had a family trip planned to the zoo with both of our parents, our sisters and their kids. Previously when we've gone out for the day I've needed to shake my partner awake several times, and he lies in bed while I get the kids ready. He'll finally get up 5 minutes before we leave as I shout at him I'm getting in the car. I've mentioned to him that this is very frustrating as it's a lot of work getting the kids ready to go out, and it's not fair to leave it up to me while he lies in bed. He'd apologize and promise that the next time he'd get up and help. The night before the trip I told him I'd need him to be awake at 6:30 a.m. so we could get everyone ready to leave by 8 a.m. He said he'd set an alarm and we went to bed. My alarm went off at 6:30 a.m. and I got up while my partner kept sleeping. I decided I wasn't going to wake him this time and continued getting the kids ready. At 8 a.m. he was still sleeping, so I loaded the kids in the car and we set off. We arrived at the zoo at 9:30 a.m. and his family asked where he was. I mentioned he was still in bed and chose not to come. At 10:15 a.m. I got a phone call from him asking where everyone was. I said we went to the zoo as planned, and I waited for him to get up but he never did. He got really mad and told me that I should have woken him up like I always do, and I caused him to miss the trip. He then called his mom and complained to her, who yelled at me in the middle of the zoo that I was being unfair, and I should have given him a shake to let him know he needed to get up, and that I was about to leave. My mother jumped in and said it wasn't my responsibility to get him out of bed, and he needed to take responsibility for himself. A few more words were exchanged and his family stalked off for the rest of the trip. I had a blast with my kids, parents, sister, and my nephews. When we got home my partner started on me again about how I should have woken him up. So am I an idiot for not waking him up and going without him? A few things have come up I want to clarify. 1. He wasn't always like this. When the oldest two were little he was always up with them. He even gets up anyway to cook breakfast before going off to work. We had to move in with his parents at one point and that's where things started to change. His family are incredibly misogynistic. Dad works then comes home, watches TV and drinks beer while his mom does everything else, including getting him up for work etc. These beliefs seem to have rubbed off on him, and his mom is very quick to tell him something is the woman's job. 2. He's seeing a therapist independently who has suggested some form of depression. 3. He's generally pretty good otherwise. He will help with dinner, cleaning, putting the kids to bed etc. He's not entirely useless. Getting out of bed in the morning is a long-standing issue though. 4. He has a vasectomy after baby number 4, which turned out to be incomplete. I had a hysterectomy. Update. After posting this I received messages expressing concern and advice, so I thought I'd update about how things turned out. The morning after this incident my partner got out of bed when the kids did and took the older girls out for breakfast. Later I asked him if he'd be willing to read the thread and he agreed. He was very subdued afterwards, and didn't say much except for agreeing that he was in awe. The next day he took off work and saw his GP, started on antidepressants, and we had a long talk. He was ashamed by how he was acting and to see strangers comparing him to children. He cried when realized how much he was letting everyone down, especially his daughters who will grow up thinking this is normal behavior. He confirmed that this all started when we lived with his parents a few years back. He left home at 17 to get away from his mother, and she told him he'd fail as men need a woman to look after them. He felt like a failure, so it was easy for his mother to feed him other ideas, and she would also manipulate things I did to look like he was incompetent as a person. For example, I'd tell him to relax and I'd handle the dishes, and his mother twisted it into me thinking he was incompetent, so he should just stop helping at all. He'd wake up feeling useless, and she managed to convince him that he was unhappy because I wasn't taking care of him the way a wife should. He decided to get no contact with her, which didn't go well. She cried and told him he was a horrible son for abandoning his mother, and that I was trying to control him by forcing him to do it. He blocked her, but she just used different numbers to continue calling him. After a week or so he ended up changing his number, and we haven't heard from his family since. He brought up that he was unhappy at work as it wasn't stimulating enough, but he felt like he couldn't leave. I offered to pick up some part-time work, but he said no. He talked to his boss and took some time off, and eventually quit. He spoke to my dad, who used some connections and got him a good job at his company. The new job is a primarily work-from-home position, so he is able to help with the girls more and has more free time. He is able to take the girls to school and watch them play while he works, which they all enjoy. Before he started the new job he booked a trip for us to go to the snow for a week. We had a blast and it was lovely to see him relaxed and happy and enjoying our girls and life. He's promised to be more honest about how he's feeling and our relationship has improved immensely. Thank you to everyone who gave judgment and advice, as he says it really helped him see things more clearly, especially the toxic relationship with his mother. Not an idiot. Everyone's always quick to tell people to break up in this forum. It's so nice to see that you worked it out, together, built communication and something good came from it. I'm very proud of him. And you, no idiots here. In some ways, being able to admit mistakes and try to do better is a more admirable quality than getting it right the first time. That won't make the ache you went through in the past better, but at least you can trust in your partner trying to do his best in the future. Am I an idiot for blowing up at my friend who constantly makes comments about my chest? I, female 26, have a big chest. I'm currently at 52 kilograms and there's nothing I can do to change the size of these things unless I have surgery. I'm also extremely shy and from a very conservative family, so my resentment and shame towards my bust is an ongoing issue. My friend Sarah is one of those unfiltered free thinkers who says whatever is on her mind. She's also slim and her chest is very much in proportion to the rest of her body. We work together and I'm always secretly jealous of how great shirts and tops look on her, whereas I feel I look very sloppy and unprofessional with oversized, ill-fitting clothes. Sarah has this way of always bringing up my boobs in conversation, starting off complimentary but often ending with a subtle insult. She knows they're a physical feature I'm uncomfortable with but doesn't let up. Examples of things she'll say is how my boobs look good now but give it a few years and they'll be down to my knees, haha. Or she'll show me comments on Reddit where people are discussing chest size preferences and most are commenting how much they prefer a smaller bust over large. Or just a general reminder of how work or men will never take me seriously because of my cartoon boobs. I know she's trying to have lighthearted fun but it gets to me and I've told her a few times to drop it before. Now we're working from home. We all have daily video calls and meetings. Uniforms are not necessary and we can wear what we like. A few days ago, it was extremely hot and I was wearing a lighter, more revealing top than my usual baggy cover-ups. During this video call, in front of 6 other colleagues, Sarah starts vocalizing her thoughts on my appearance. Holy poop. Put those away. You look like you're in a porno. We don't need to see that first thing in the morning. Haha. I was mortified. One other colleague laughed along but the rest looked uncomfortable. I felt close to tears, made an excuse and left the meeting. Sarah called me up half an hour later asking me what was wrong and I went off on her. Told her to go frick herself and was sick of her constant jabs about my appearance. I went on a 10-minute tirade and hung up. Sarah has been off sick since that day and we haven't spoken again. I'm wondering if I was too harsh and maybe should call and apologize for my outburst. Was I an idiot? Edit, I'm fuming. I just spoke with a colleague, John, who was part of the video call that day, and he told me that Sarah's been telling everyone that it's me that's been bullying her and making her feel insecure about her appearance. When she made those comments during the meeting, it was in retaliation to how I've made her feel. Apparently, I said she looks like a boy and called her flat-chested and ugly several times in the past. I have never and would never say this. I don't even understand the stupid boy body insult because a small bust has always looked very beautiful and classy in my eyes. Anyway, John knows she's full of poop and has suggested we speak with HR. The others will also back me up. I know most people here suggested I do this and I wasn't sure at first, but frick it, I'm reporting her. I don't know why I ever considered her a friend. She's freaking mental and annoying. Edit 2. I now feel stupid for even asking the question, am I an idiot? I thought I may have been at one point because the video call was amongst mostly workmates rather than clients and I wasn't sure if my sensitivity towards my body image made me overreact to a joke that could have been innocent. I now realize it wasn't. I've also spoken to another coworker who is closer to Sarah and she thinks Sarah may have already reported me to HR. She said the phone conversation we had after the meeting was filled with abusive bullying language and physical threats. It wasn't a pleasant phone call, but the worst thing I said was that she go frick out and that I don't want to speak to her again. The rest of the conversation was just rehashing all the comments she made about my body and how it made me feel. She also claimed that I have been making inappropriate jokes about her appearance and work ethic through the years, and this confrontation was a long time coming. She also suggested that I've convinced the guys in the office to take my side by being a flirt and a tease. Did I mention that I'm stupidly shy? My head is swimming and I think I may be dealing with an actual psycho. I don't know how it's come to this ridiculous level of craziness. All I wanted to do was get on with my freaking work in peace and get through this crappy time, but now I have to deal with this bullshit. Update. Just to answer a few questions I've seen. 1. I've contacted HR with my complaint. I have a lot of old text messages and emails with comments and memes Sarah has sent making fun of my chest size. John and other colleagues are fully supporting me as well as my manager. It will take a while for them to get back to me, but I'm confident that things will be sorted and Sarah will be dealt with. 2. My breasts alone are at 52 kilograms, 114 pounds. My overall weight is 52 kilograms. I mention this because my chest seems much larger on my small frame, making clothes that others wear and look nice in look completely gaudy and cheap on me. I can't lose any more weight to make a difference on my bust size. I won't get surgery, but I have been working on my body image issues which my shyness and upbringing did a number on. People's comments don't usually devastate me as they once did, but Sarah obviously tried her best to break me down. 3. Thank you to all for clothing suggestions. I will definitely look into tailoring some tops and have spent some time checking out Brevissimo, which looks great. 4. In hindsight, I should have confronted Sarah more sternly in the past, but I guess I was trying to avoid conflict. Others have suggested I may have allowed her to gaslight me, which may be true. I just want to move on at this point. Update 2. The coworker, Lucy, who keeps in contact with Sarah and told me earlier that Sarah may have reported me to HR, has just phoned to tell me that Sarah has suffered a serious panic attack. Lucy does not want to take sides but has suggested I reconsider taking drastic action. Sarah is too unwell to talk to me herself but has asked I drop my complaint and she will drop hers, citing the whole thing as a misunderstanding and stress-induced disagreement. I have had panic attacks before in my life and I seriously felt like I was going to die. It's a horrible feeling, and if Sarah has honestly just had one herself, I don't want to push her too far. I still want to address her comments over the video call, but I'm wondering if I should just drop the other complaints. Sarah has asked to move teams so we don't directly work with one another, but it doesn't seem she wants to apologize yet. And just to clarify to people who assume I was wearing a bikini top or boob tube during the meeting, I wasn't. It was a short-sleeved plain t-shirt which hugged my breasts more than my usual baggy tops. I don't like to hold grudges, and I think getting her fired during a time like this may be a shitty thing to do. I feel she has already punished herself by displaying this fricked up behavior to others and losing a lot of respect from coworkers. If we don't ever have to interact with one another, I'm up for that. I have a suspicion that Sarah may have found this post and read it, which I thought I would feel bad about, but I really don't care. Update 3. I'm not dropping any of the complaints. Sarah, frick you Michelle, and I have spoken, and although it started off promising, she is mentally unhinged and without a conscience. I did not realize how deep her hatred runs. Not only did she mock all those things I had told her in confidence about the way my family treated me growing up, she accused me of fricking every guy from work to get ahead. Now I know where some of those fake office rumors about me came from. I've been such a naive idiot and allowed my shyness and aversion to conflict to stop me from fighting people who manipulate and walk all over me. I don't need this misery in my life. If she's reading this, get professional help immediately. I know you desperately fancy John and, as you said, despise the way he looks at me. I know it bothers you that he took my side and has been a great support. Maybe I will go for drinks with him when the lockdown ends. If I don't make any new updates, just assume that the right person was reprimanded and face the consequences of their words and actions. Update 4. I took into account the advice offered and I thank you guys for your help. The HR meeting call with the supervisor went well. The main incident in my original post wasn't recorded, but all 6 colleagues wrote a statement confirming what Sarah had said and how inappropriate it was. I didn't realize it, but John had also asked others who work with us if they, at any point, heard Sarah attack my character or physical appearance in a cruel or improper manner, and if they did, would they be willing to write a statement. Apparently, she has been saying quite a few outrageous things behind my back, and it seems that a lot of the hurtful office gossip about me did originate from her. I submitted a few examples of messages and emails sent by Sarah during work hours, taking jokes about my appearance too far. I also included the messages where I asked her to stop causing attention at work as I'm extremely uncomfortable with others regarding me in that way. Her claims of my bullying her and calling her flat-chested and ugly at work were dismissed as she couldn't specify dates or find anyone to corroborate her story or even provide any examples of me ever being hostile or unprofessional. The phone call we had after the video team meeting where she claims I used threatening language against her was also disregarded as no recording was made and it was her word against mine. Luckily, I don't think they believed her on this point as I've never displayed anything near the type of aggressive behavior she was accusing me of, and my character references had me down as the quiet sort who gets on with work. While things were being reviewed, Sarah decided to quit. She's still adamant that I bullied and threatened her and felt no choice but to leave the toxic environment I created. I've been reassured that there was no wrongdoing on my part except that I should have reported things much sooner when inappropriate comments first started. From what I gather, Sarah's general behavior at work has raised concerns for a while, and I wasn't the first to complain about her. Some people were confused as to why I had considered her a friend in the beginning. When I joined the team 3 years ago, it was my first job out of uni and I was incredibly nervous, but Sarah was the first to ask me questions and offer to hang out. She was a bit overbearing and rambunctious, but I appreciated her efforts to get to know me and coax me out of my shell. We often did have a good laugh despite her sometimes making a joke at my expense, but I tried not to take it to heart and occasionally reminded her to wind it in and be more considerate of my feelings. It's only been during the past 8 or so months where she's become especially rude and callous. I still referred to her as a friend of sorts, but I never thought she would take things as far as she did. Edit. Thanks to everyone for the kind words, advice and encouragement, it's really blown me away. I stepped away to talk to John for a while and let him know what a great guy a lot of people think he is. His little smile was adorable. Despite the misery at work I had to go through for a while, everything has turned out pretty amazing. I do love my job now that I can actually get on with it without the office drama. Finding out how my other coworkers feel about me has been incredibly reassuring, and we've now set up a weekly virtual pub night. My outlook has improved massively, and I'm taking steps to manage my anxieties and put aside past negativity. Not an idiot. I'm so sorry that you had to deal with that. I'm so glad everyone was able to see Sarah was spitting lies and hope work is better now you don't have to deal with her. Not an idiot. That's an absolutely awful experience for you to go through. I'm so sorry that you were subjected to the bullying and malicious behavior. I'm glad that HR have dealt with it professionally and that she has quit. She definitely sounds unhinged and, probably, incredibly jealous, though there's no need to put that on you. How would you have reacted to someone like that? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I an idiot for telling my daughter it's her fault she has no pictures of herself? I, female 54, have 5 kids, 3 biological, 2 stepkids. The issue is with my eldest, Clem, who is female 26. The only pictures I have of Clem are from the day she was born to around her 8th birthday, but none after that. She would ruin any picture she was in by making funny faces, hiding from the camera, making weird signs with her hands, or by messing with other people. It was like this until she was 12 when she started to straight up refuse. We would tell her to come for the family photo, but she would refuse. We never forced her, but would gently encourage her. She even refused school pictures. I have no pictures of birthdays, graduations, prom photos, holidays or days out with her in them. It broke my heart because I don't have any pictures of her growing up. Family photos look odd, because she's not in them. Clem is 26 now and is pregnant with her first child. She brought her so over for dinner, and after we were looking at photo albums, we got to hers and she saw hers was nearly empty. She asked where all her pictures were and I told her she refused to have any taken. She got all teary-eyed and told me to stop joking. At this point, I'm very annoyed. I tell her I'm not joking and that she did this to herself. I told her if she had swallowed her pride and had even one picture, we wouldn't be like this today. She got angry and thought I had printed out the ones she had messed up. She got super upset and went to sit in the car. The next day, today, I got a few texts from family members calling me an idiot for putting her on blast and humiliating her. Am I an idiot? Edit. Thank you for all your replies. I do want to clear something up. Whilst I agree it was a shitty move not to include goofy or rude pictures, that's not what Clem has an issue with. She's upset that I have no pictures of her from age 12-18 to fill the album with, and the few I do have caused extreme reactions from Clem. I can't fill an album with pictures I never took. That's what she's upset about, not the omission of goofy, rude photos. Edit 2. To those of you saying who cares about rude gestures or goofy faces, I didn't realize this needed say. But the family photos weren't just for me, they were for everyone involved. Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents on all sides, etc. I can guarantee none of them want an 8-year-old making the eat out gesture in what is meant to be their nice family photo. Edit 3. It's kind of sad to see so many people assume that because a child has anxiety, that I berate them whenever they mess around when taking a photo. I never yelled at Clem for making silly faces, would simply encourage her to stop and smile, but her rude gestures and faces would ramp up. But I guess that's what you expect on this sub. Everyone hates their kids. Update. So it's been less than a week because I wanted to make amends ASAP, so I printed off all the pictures and put them in the album. They didn't fill it, but I made a spread on one of the pages that said go make new memories with a picture of her and her fiance. I put a lot of work into making it look cute. I called her and asked to talk. She arrived and we had a long discussion. I asked if she had any trauma or self-esteem issues, in a more tactful way, obviously, and she said no, she simply did not like having her photo taken and adopted the behavior of screeching and kicking to avoid photos. She did say she had anxiety and that's why she had panic attacks, but that it was mostly because she was gassing herself up, if that makes sense. I knew she had anxiety, but not that she gassed herself up, if that makes sense. BTW, gassing herself up are her words, not mine. Regarding her visit, the one that kicked things off, she explained that she was embarrassed by her behavior and even more so when it was exposed to her fiance. She said she didn't quite realize how much time she had lost and that it was a very emotional time for her. I apologized for my wording during our spat and we both made up. I even showed her the post and we read the comments together. We had quite a laugh at all the armchair psychologists and internet detectives that claimed just because she knew a sexual gesture as a child, she was in danger. Some people were writing borderline fanfiction and rewriting my entire history with my daughter based on one post that's talent. After a little bit of talking, I brought out the album and gave it to her. She was happy, and she seemed to take responsibility for the fact she refused to have pics taken. I told her I had printed out the candid ones from when she was 12-18 and asked if she wanted them. She said no. She really liked the page with her and her fiance, which made me super happy. So that's that. You might find this hard to believe, but other than this incident, which we are working through, we have a very good relationship. Not an idiot. Some people just take bad pictures. It is just something about having the camera lens in front of them. They simply cannot remain normal. I think they feel like they need to perform in some way. My mother-in-law is one of them. She just cannot stand and smile for a picture. She will almost always have her eyes closed, or a strange look on her face. She wants to take a good picture, but something just keeps it from happening. Not an idiot. I feel like this is one of the rare cases where a Reddit post makes a difference in someone's life. As someone with anxiety, I get why taking pictures would be something to freak out over. I did think it was weird she knew the eat out sign at 8 years old, but I taught some kids age 10 and 11 who did way worse poop than that. Haha, I'm really glad it ended well. Am I an idiot for wanting to bring the partner of my brother to his funeral? A little over a month ago, my little brother who was 26 passed away in a motorcycle accident. His death was so sudden and it hit my family very hard. I honestly still can't believe it. With COVID and now this unexpected loss, we had no idea how to organize a funeral while dealing with our grief. My brother always said he wanted to be cremated when he died, so at least we were able to honor his wish. It also made it a little easier to take our time to plan a proper service for him without worrying about his body. The week my brother passed, I drove to his apartment to pick up some of his stuff and met his roommate. I'll call him M, who my sister already told the news. Only I came to find out M was more than that. He was my brother's boyfriend of 5 years. He was so heartbroken and upset he didn't even try to hide the fact that they were a couple. While I was a bit surprised, I had my suspicion growing up that he might like guys, but I never said anything. Being his older brother and all, I figured he'd come to me when he was ready. I wound up staying for hours talking to him about my brother and going through photos. Since then I kept in contact with him to see how he's coping, and I started visiting a lot just so we both had someone to talk to. He's a great guy and I'm really happy my brother found someone like him to spend his years with. Having these talks with him have also made me feel a lot closer to my brother again. My brother distanced himself from our family at 18 and didn't keep much contact with anyone, even me, despite us being as close as two brothers can be. Looking back now, I guess I can see why. My family was finally able to organize a proper funeral service for my brother. The service is scheduled for this Friday. We're still limited on how many people can be there, so only close family will be attending, and it'll be live streamed for everyone else. I really think should be at the funeral. He just lost the love of his life and he really wants to be there too. We decided to tell my parents he's a really close friend of my brother's. My sister, who apparently knew about them, flipped when she found out. She told me not to bring me because our parents will question who he is and it might expose the truth about my brother being gay since they never met him before. We argued over this and she pretty much thinks I'd be an idiot for letting him possibly face ridicule from our family if they found out who he was. They're all close-minded, and also a terrible son if I upset my parents over my brother being gay while they're still grieving him. This is all if they find out. I don't know if they will, but it still doesn't seem fair to not let him be there when he was such an important person in my brother's life. I feel like it's only right to bring him, but maybe I'm letting my emotions get the best of me and maybe someone with a different perspective can tell me. Am I an idiot? Update. Thank you so much to everyone for your support and assuring me we're doing the right thing here. I know I won't be able to reply to every single comment, so I just wanted to express my gratitude. Also, I did want to say, since people keep telling me to warn him about my family, he is well aware of how they are since my brother told him all about them and knows what he might be dealing with if anyone finds out. He still made the choice to be there and prefers being introduced as only my brother's best friend, not because of my family's homophobic views, but because he wants peace for himself at the funeral. If anyone does find out though, he won't be alone. I'll be standing by his side, so anybody wanting to cause problems will be dealing with me. So please don't worry. I won't let anyone ruin this last chance for us to say goodbye to my dear baby brother. Update 2. M went to the funeral and I introduced him to everyone as my brother's roommate and best friend. My sister was visibly bothered, but she didn't say anything. As expected, everyone including my parents were too upset to think about him being there and were still welcoming towards him. They didn't speculate or react the way my sister thought they would. I knew they wouldn't. We were all focused on my brother. It was a beautiful service. I'm glad M was a part of this and that my brother got a proper send-off. It was very difficult and it hurt so much to say goodbye. I really hope we did right by my brother and it was how he would have wanted it. Thank you to whoever suggested an urn necklace that M could keep some of my brother's ashes in. I brought this up to him and asked if that was something he wanted. I was going to get part for myself while my parents kept most of it. And then I would just split the ashes with M. Didn't know that was a thing, but said he liked that idea. He got himself a beautiful pendant to keep the ashes in and he really loves it, so thanks again to the person who commented this. It was a lovely suggestion and it means so much to him to have a piece of my brother with him at all times. I have still kept contact with him since the funeral. He stopped by a couple times and has finally met my wife and daughter. I also try to see him when I have the chance just to make sure he's okay. This has understandably taken a huge toll on him. He told me he started talking to someone to help cope with the grief, which I think is great. I myself had a bit of a wake-up call that therapy was something I very much needed right away. My wife brought it to my attention that our 5-year-old has noticed I've stopped eating and now she doesn't want to either unless I do. Don't know, I guess I haven't been able to eat because I feel like I don't deserve it, if that makes any sense. It hit me that what I'm going through is starting to affect my family, so I'm currently looking up grief counseling in my area. I've also made an effort to eat more in front of my daughter so she knows that I'm fine and it's okay to eat, hiding the fact that it still makes me sick to my stomach. Things are still rough and wounds are yet to heal, but we're all surviving. Thank you everyone for all your kindness and support. Not an idiot. I am so sorry for your loss and at the same time so impressed with how you handled your brother's partner and his feelings. What a compassionate and graceful act. FYI, for grief counseling, some hospice organizations may provide this regardless of whether they were involved with the family member. All the best to you as you work through this difficult time. Not an idiot. Your brother would be proud of you. You have ensured his partner was part of the funeral and still touch base with him. You need to look after you now, mate. Get a therapist and help yourself to process everything. In the meantime, try to eat a similar sized meal to your daughter for you and for her. Would you care who comes to the funeral? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I an idiot for dancing half naked in my living room leading to my BF and his family seeing me? This is so embarrassing, but I can't take it anymore. I have to know if I'm in the wrong here. I need to apologize if so. I, female 21, was told by my BF, Nate, male 26, that I'd get the house to myself for the weekend. He said he had to go visit his parents to take care of a property-related issue. I was pretty excited to have the house to myself because I have been living with Nate since I was 19 and I miss living alone. Though Nate is the love of my life and in no way a trouble to live with, I had this tradition of spending a lot of my weekends baking while in my lingerie. It makes me feel pretty. Yes, it's stupid, but it just makes me stupid happy, with music and dancing. Super embarrassing to admit, but I also do silly things like pretending I'm a Victoria's model or a singer and I sing along loudly. I mention this because this means the house is usually a mess. My dresses are all over and the music is super loud, which is obviously not okay. I hadn't done that in a long time because Nate hates loud music and he's not a fan of my cupcakes. So I decided to do it this weekend. FYI, Nate's family is also really conservative and he was brought up like that as well. So it's Sunday and I put on What a Feeling by One Direction and it's super loud. I'm only wearing lingerie, Victoria's kind so lacy AF, which I regret looking back at. My BF used his key to open the door and I didn't hear him coming because like I said, it's loud in the house and I'm also in the kitchen, living room area. Apparently he wanted to surprise me. Nate brought his mom, dad, and his sister's 2 kids, only like male 10, think. They come in and there I am, frozen in a dance pose like an idiot. I quickly ran to our room, yelling sorry, I wasn't expecting anyone, and was putting on clothes when Nate came in. He was so angry. He said I was acting like a child and that I embarrassed him. His parents wanted Nate to drop them back ASAP, refusing to stay, and his mom called me a lot of names and said the kids had seen everything and that made me feel guilty AF. Here's why I am losing sleep over this. On one hand, I didn't know they would come. I locked the door too so I feel like I didn't do anything wrong. I planned on cleaning up my mess before Nate came home too. Also, Nate and his mom insulted me a lot. But when you look at it from their perspective, I was behaving like an immature person. The house was a mess, I looked a mess, there were baking supplies scattered. Nate just wanted to surprise me and do something nice. Nate is still not completely talking to me. I don't know how to face his family, and I also know his sister told him to make me behave or something. So I feel like I should apologize before things get worse, but I can't decide for sure if I'm in the wrong here, so I need your help. Thank you for reading. Update. After reading what everyone wrote, I quickly realized that what Nate did was so wrong. A lot of great moms in the comments also helped me understand the fact that even conservative moms, like Nate's, wouldn't react so rudely. It hit me like a wave when I realized what my life had come to. I didn't say anything to Nate about the post, but he must have figured out that I was upset at him. I was doubting our relationship and pulling away from him. He started talking to me again, and for a day I didn't really say anything. But I knew I had some decisions to make. I genuinely didn't believe I would get so many responses telling me I was not the idiot, so this was eye-opening for me. So a few days after I made the post, I told Nate that we needed to talk. I said that I would be staying with my friend until I felt comfortable around him. He didn't know what I was referring to, which just made me angry because how can he forget a fight that big? And I told him I was upset with how he treated me after the whole "your family walking in on me" incident. I also mentioned how I shouldn't have to wait for him to be away to dance, bake, or listen to One Direction just because he doesn't like it. He tried convincing me to stay, but I left. I think he knew I wouldn't let this go like the other things, thanks to you guys. Yesterday I asked him to meet me at a cafe so we could have a conversation about everything that happened. Nate cried, like for the first time ever since I have known him. He apologized, told me he messed up, and that he would change because he realized his mistakes now. I told him I wanted to move out and maybe after a while, if he does actually change, I'd give us another chance. I just needed some space to think about things, and so I told him we should take a break from each other for a while. Nate told me he would talk to his mom as well and that he should have defended me, to which I said yes, you should have. I actually borrowed direct sentences to explain why he was wrong from some comments you guys left because it was so helpful. It went better than how I imagined it would go. Also, thank you. Thank you doesn't even begin to cover what I really want to say to everyone who helped me, and also to the mods who removed a lot of creepy comments. Thanks for sharing your stories about dancing in your underwear as well. It made me feel better to know I wasn't some freak for enjoying those things. I'm going to use those baking tips you guys gave to me and make cupcakes right now actually because I can. I feel so relieved. Not an idiot. When I read your post, I was so concerned by not only his and his family's treatment of you, but also by the fact that it was so over the top and he didn't defend you. I'm glad you're taking a break from him because this was insane. You deserve to feel comfortable in your own home, and what you are doing isn't bad. Many men would be over the moon to have a GF dancing around joyously baking. Do you think she's in the wrong? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I an idiot for kicking out my identical twin for selling nudes online? To give some backstory, my sister, female 23, and I, female 23, were kicked out by our parents at the age of 18, and we have been living in an apartment together with a roommate ever since. My sister doesn't have a steady job at the moment, so I have been handling her portion of the rent on the apartment. A few weeks ago, she approached me and told me that she found a source of income and would likely be able to start paying for rent soon. I didn't ask too many questions when she told me this because I was just happy that she finally found a job. However, I was talking to our roommate 2 nights ago and found out that my sister started an OnlyFans account and has been selling naked pictures, videos of herself. Now, I am very sex positive and forward thinking. I have nothing against sex workers, but she is my identical twin. We look exactly alike in almost every way. I personally do not feel comfortable sharing my body online to strangers. On top of that, I am trying to start a professional career for myself and I don't want employers, coworkers to find this and think that it is me. I confronted my sister when she got home later that night and told her that I will not be speaking to her until she deletes the account and that she would have to move out of the apartment. She was pretty mad about this and stormed out of the apartment and ended up sleeping at a mutual friend's house for the last 2 nights. I have talked to our roommate and some friends about this and they think that I overreacted. Am I the idiot here? Update. A lot has happened since then, so I decided to make an update. After reading your comments, I decided that I probably took it too far, and although I was embarrassed and felt violated, at the end of the day, it is her body and not mine. Just because we look the same does not mean I get to have a say, nor should it affect our relationship. So, I called her and told her I wanted to talk and we had a really long emotional discussion, and I obviously decided to not kick her out as long as she was able to cover her rent going forward. Then, COVID happens, and as of June, I no longer have a job. I was one of the newest people at the company I was working for, and so I was one of the first to go. And in a turn of events, my sister, who has been killing it on OnlyFans, is now covering for my portion of the rent until I am able to get back on my feet. So, thank you for your advice. I might have ruined my relationship with my sister and maybe even be homeless without it. Not an idiot. I understand the initial reaction, but I'm glad you were able to move past it and it has worked out for both of you. I hope you are able to get back on your feet soon. Not an idiot. I'm an identical and this hit hard for me. I totally understand where you are coming from in your original post. I am glad you guys worked things out. Back when my sister and I were kids, we went to an overnight camp during summers. One year we lived in a cabin way up on the girls' side of the camp, and being so far into the woods made everything extra sweaty with little air moving. Sometimes I would wear only a sports bra and pajama shorts to cool down. Being in middle school, where everything is embarrassing in fairness, this mortified my sister and we'd get in huge fights about clothes because my bed was by a window. Our counselor had to talk to us and work out an agreement in the end. Obviously, these are 2 very different situations, but that's the story it reminded me of. It really felt like sharing a body at certain times, and my sister didn't want people to see us in that outfit. I'm glad everything played out for the best for you too.